today's problems in corporations have to do not only with having a very good professional class in management, but also in having a good system of governance by which both the board of directors, shareholders, and the top management team can actually interact with one another in order to make the company sustainable in the long term. Well, we see many of them in reading newspapers. We see problems that have to do with chief executives that actually are fighting against the board of directors, with board of directors that are fighting against shareholders, with some shareholders that are fighting against other shareholders. All those things actually reflect, in some ways, obviously human condition, but also they also reflect that sometimes the long-term dimension of a company and the long-term objective of a company is not clear to the major stakeholders of a corporation. I think that a good system of corporate governance has to create a framework with some goals, some objectives, some shared values that most of stakeholders actually agree with, and a frame that actually can help the top management team and board of directors to develop strategic plans and action plans that could be those long-term objectives effective and feasible within the boundaries of what a corporation can actually do. Well, integrated vision actually means that both the objectives of shareholders, the board of directors, and the top management team actually could get aligned one way or another. And from this definition of aligned objectives, the company can actually develop some mechanisms for developing and designing strategic plans, designing a compensation system, designing control systems for the company, and designing mechanisms by which information goes back and forth between shareholders and the board of directors, or between boards of directors and the top management team. So integration means that in governing a company, the top management team does not take into account only their own preferences. They have to take into account the preferences, the objectives that they have agreed with the board of directors, and also the board of directors has to take into account what shareholders expect from them and from the top management team. Any system of corporate governance actually involves a number of very important ingredients. First of all, the quality of people in the board of directors, in the top management team, also the professionalism of those people. Sometimes we tend to mix up things in corporate governance simply because we don't take professionalism very seriously. We think that some problems can be just solved by setting up some incentive systems. Incentive systems are important, but you actually need to design a corporate governance model in which all the ingredients are not just efficient by themselves, but also they are coherent with one another. The third dimension of very good governance system is to have a project for the company, a project that is more than just a strategic plan. A project is actually something that helps explain why this company actually exists and why this company actually operates the way it does. And a project that could be shared, again, by shareholders, the board of directors, and the top management team. And finally, there is a very important ingredient that no matter how good the corporate governance system actually is, that any company actually needs this value, which is trust. Without trust, there is no possible to build up, to develop a system of corporate governance that could successfully project the company or help project the company into the long term, into the future. So we need people, we need a project, we need a very strong sense of professionalism, but also at the end of the day we also need trust that actually builds and helps develop these relationships so that the company could develop itself for the long term.